Good evening, and welcome back to the Pastor Study. We've all had them, days where it just seemed like we shouldn't have gotten out of bed. Sometimes it's a Monday, sometimes it's another day. We're worn out, we're frazzled, people have gotten on our last nerve, and we don't have much of that left to work with either. Scientists are telling us, or at least psychologists are telling us, that COVID has made that so much worse. The struggles we're dealing with, the emotional issues we deal with have increased significantly in our culture because of COVID. And we were already a stressed out culture. Sometimes it just seems like we've got all we can handle and we can't do anything else. Let me tell you a quick story that we find in Luke chapter 10. Jesus knows his family in Bethany. You know them from another instance. The family's name is Mary and Martha and Lazarus. Lazarus is the one that Jesus raises from the dead after he's been dead for 3 days. But he's come to visit, and he's sitting in the front room teaching. Martha is scurrying around. She's busy trying to put everything together, maybe making a meal, maybe providing for all the guests who are there. Maybe she's bringing something to drink, something to eat out to everybody. I don't know, but she's busy. Mary, on the other hand, is curled up on the floor, sitting next to Jesus, listening to what he's teaching and absorbing what he's saying. And Martha's getting angrier and angrier and angrier. Finally, she comes to Jesus and she says this. She says, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me." Martha's ticked off. She's angry at Mary. She's probably a bit angry at Jesus because he's letting it go on. In fact, we're told in the previous verse, Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She'd taken all that on herself. Jesus looks at her and responds this way. "Martha, Martha, you are worried about and upset about many things. But only one thing is really needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." Now, he wasn't saying that what Martha was doing was not important. It certainly was, and it was a custom, a Jewish custom, that when someone came to your house as a guest, you had to provide for them. You had to be a gracious host or hostess. So certainly what she was doing was not wrong. But I think Jesus was telling her that she was letting everything else overwhelm her to the point where that which was the most important, and that was listening to Jesus and learning what he was trying to teach them, was passing her by. I know in my own life, I find when I get overwhelmed, I get frustrated, I get stressed, it's generally because I've tried to take on too much stuff and I'm leaving out that which is the most important. Somehow we seem to think that we're wasting time or we're being lazy if we sit down and just try to take a bit of time and listen to what God might have to speak to us through his Spirit. Way back, thousands of years ago, Samuel, the prophet Samuel, was a young boy. And he had just been given by his mother to Eli, the high priest, to train. Samuel's laying in bed one night. He's probably not more than 5 or 6 or 7. And he hears a voice and he thinks it's Eli. And he goes running next door and says, "Eli, here I am. What do you have?" And Eli says, No, I didn't have anything to say to you. Go back and lay down." So this happens a second time, and Eli sends him back. And so now it happens a third time. And this time Eli has realized that something special is going on. And he tells the prophet, the man who would soon become a prophet, to go back. And the next time he hears that voice, to respond this way: "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." I wonder how many times we need to do that. That we need to go back and just simply respond to the Lord and say, "Lord, here I am. I'm willing. I'd like to hear anything that you've got to speak to me." I wonder if sometimes our frustration levels would go down. Our aggravation levels would go down. We might have a little better control of our temper that seems to flare sometimes when we get overwhelmed and overloaded. If we would just sit down and say, "Lord, here I am. If you've got anything to say to me, I'm certainly willing to listen." I think we need to take Jesus' words to Martha to heart. only one thing is really important, and that's what God might have to say to us. Let me close with a let me close with a blessing from 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 16. May our Lord Jesus Christ himself and God our Father, who loves us and by his grace gave us eternal encouragement and good hope, encourage your hearts and strengthen you in every good deed and work. And with that, I'll close and look forward to seeing you next week back in the Pastor Study.